Hello and welcome to another video. Hadn't done any videos in a while. I didn't want to do any pickup videos until maybe later on the year. I didn't want to combine everything I got back in October, November, December, stuff like that. This video, however, I'm going to show off my Final Fantasy collection. The funny thing is, when I first played Final Fantasy, I think it was back in maybe middle school, I didn't care that much about the game. I had a Final Fantasy X when I first got my PS2. Just didn't excite me for some reason. Up until later on, maybe right when I got out of high school, when I first got my PSP, got the game Crisis Core, basically the prequel to Final Fantasy VII. After I played that, I started getting into the series, and so I started playing Final Fantasy, and just I still wish I could buy Final Fantasy or 15. So here we go. First up, the first Final or game that got me back into Final Fantasy, Crisis Core on PSP. Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions. Just ignore the GameStop sticker. Actually bought it at a pawn shop for $5. Dissidia Final Fantasy. 2 copies. If you're wondering why I have 2 copies, well, let's see. Yeah, the white case. It's actually a Japanese import of the game. If you can, yeah. The one in the black case, it's the English import. The game's not in it. It's in my little PSP carrying case. Dissidia 012. Next up on Super Nintendo, Final Fantasy III. I was playing on that and then got sidetracked with a lot of other games and just actually have 2 copies of this game, Final Fantasy XII. This steelbook case. The manual, 2 discs, the game, and bonus feature. I'll try and find it somewhere not to let it fall. Final Fantasy XX2 HD remastered on PS4. Final Fantasy XX2 on PS3 HD remastered. Final Fantasy IV on DS. Interesting part about this, along with the game, came with the Game Boy Advance version of Final Fantasy IV. And as in this case, it's the DS game's not in it. It's my little DS carrying case. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Echoes of Time. Complete with manual. And game's not in, it's in my DS carrying case as well. Final Fantasy 13. This one I have not started on. Doesn't come with the manual. But anyway. Final Fantasy Type 0 HD. Honestly, not my favorite Final Fantasy game. Now to my PS1 Final Fantasy games. Final Fantasy 7. Actually stopped at right when I got to the final boss level with I think the final stage of Sephiroth. Final Fantasy 8. Final Fantasy 9. 9, it don't have the manual. Dirge of Cerberus. Picture of Vincent. I do apologize for my lighting in here. Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X2. This one's really interesting. I picked up, even though I can't play it, but cool to have. Final Fantasy X2. Japanese import. Final Fantasy 12. Final Fantasy 11. Though both the games are online only. $5 a piece. Why not? Even though I can't play them online, and I basically picked them up because it's Final Fantasy. Even though I can't show two items I have, but they're both Final Fantasy posters. One's of X and X2. Basically cover up the PS4 version. The poster for Type 0 HD. And DVDs. The movies. Spirits Within. Not that great of a movie, to be honest. And Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. So that's my Final Fantasy collection so far. Just anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Just like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and see you on the next video.